I call this April 13th, 2021 City Commission meeting to order. Will you please join me in the flag salute? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to public input. I see Pete Mayo. Will you join us in a prayer? Lead us in a prayer.
Yeah, and I thank you for this opportunity to kick us off in prayer. Let us pray. From Psalm 127 we read, "If the Lord does not build the house, in vain do its builders labor. If the Lord does not watch over the city, in vain do the guards keep vigil." Eternal God, watch over our city. Help us also to be vigilant in the care of our community. Keep us mindful that it is your work that we do, your people that we serve, your will that we seek. Open our hearts and minds to the full light of your guidance in all things. Inspire us especially in our most frustrating and weary moments. May your blessing be upon our city, this meeting, the discussions that take place, and the plans for the future. We thank you for your many blessings. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pete. Moving on to public input. Is there anyone that would like to speak tonight in public input? If so, come forward, state your name and address, and try to limit your time to 5 minutes. All right.
I didn't know I had 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Let me get this pulled up real quick.
And we know your name, Carrie, but could you tell us that and your address, please?
I absolutely will. All right, my name is Carrie West. I'm the Customer Solutions Manager for Evergy, 1909 South Olive in Pittsburgh. And tonight, first of all, thank you for letting us join you in public comment. You're probably wondering, why are we coming to visit with the commission? We're coming under public comment tonight because we wanted to share with you about 3 transmission projects that are going to be going on in the Pittsburgh area, coming up starting mid-year this year and lasting through the course of the next couple of years. So I brought with me my colleagues tonight, RJ Jebber and Dennis Lawler as well, who you'll be hearing from. So just a little bit about the projects. These are a series of improvements that have been part of our long-range plan for the region for quite a while. And we're just getting to those projects because these are building on projects from the Franklin to Frontenac transmission that we did a couple of years ago on the north side of town. And as we look for growth in the region, we just want to make sure that we're prepared and that we're ready to serve customers as Pittsburgh's growing. So tonight you're going to hear a little bit about the transmission system as a backbone to reliability. And those are the lines that carry the electricity from our power plants to our substations, and then in turn from the substations going on to the homes through our distribution. So with that, these projects are not only going to strengthen our regional grid, but we believe it's going to create some opportunities for redundancy for the Pittsburgh area, as well as improving reliability. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to RJ and Dennis and allow them to visit more about the project and where the projects will be.
Thank you, Carrie. My name is Dennis Lawler, 4128 Southwest Woodbury Court, Topeka, Kansas. So, kind of record there for you. So I'm going to quickly go over this one. We broke this project into 3 different phases. So I'm going to cover one of the phases, and RJ is going to come up and talk about one of the phases, and I'll talk about the third one. So the first one is where the Hudson substation is located currently, which is right by Centennial and the highway. We're going to build a new line along the railroad southwest to about here. The mouse is not showing up on the screen. Sorry about that. So if you don't mind, I guess I'll just so where the triangle area is to the southwest, It comes back to the east, and there's a yellow box at the bottom. That yellow box is a new substation that we bought the land, and we're gonna start construction on that, this summer. So that's the first phase of that line, is to go from the Hudson substation along the railroad down to the south, we call it the South Pittsburgh Switching Station. So the second phase, which is the cyan colored line, and I'll have RJ come up here and talk about that. The transmission side, we are just gonna cut off the top of the poles, and transmission, that portion is gonna go away. So I'm gonna have RJ talk a little bit about what that means for the distribution.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Again, RJ Jubber, representing Evergy at 1909 South Olive. So as you can see, the light blue line, this is a line that runs along Centennial and then heads north on Rouse. This is the line you might know by the big steel structures by the hospital or in front of Walmart Neighborhood Market. When we talk about topping out these poles, essentially the transmission is on the top quarter of the structures, and then the distribution system that feeds houses and neighborhoods is on the bottom half of the structures. So we're just gonna remove the conductor, the transmission conductor off the top, cut a portion of the pole off the top, and then move all the distribution stuff up. If you've noticed, when you maybe are pulling out of Ron's or pulling out of the mall, you see the cable lines are really low right there in front of the cemetery. By topping out the transmission stuff, we will be able to move the distribution up, therefore the cable will go up and it'll be out of sight lines. We'll get some good height on those overhead lines through that along Centennial. And you might be wondering, okay, what does all this mean? What does this look like in the real world? So as you can see in this diagram, there's a standard two-story house, and next to a CAD drawing of a structure that has transmission on the top, distribution on the bottom, and then like a street light. So as you can see, the 3 posts towards the top of that pole is what we will take out. We'll take out the posts, we'll take out the conductor, and then that horizontal arm that carries the distribution structures or the conductor will be raised up. So it'll be significantly above the height of a 2-story home or neighborhood trees, that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? Any questions on what that looks like or how that affects reliability or anything?
Is the height of the pole gonna be the same, RJ?
Yes, the height of the pole will stay the same. We're not replacing any poles.
Not
Well,
cutting them off?
Excuse me. No, the height of the pole will not be the same. We will cut the top of the pole off, so they'll be slightly shorter,
Okay.
but they will be taller than, a standard distribution pole.
Okay.
So, and because of this, there is gonna be some structure work at Quincy and Rouse, the intersection there at Quincy and Rouse, and those are transmission structures that will need to be, the reason we're splitting this up, because I'm the distribution guy and Dennis is the transmission guy, that's his wheelhouse, so if there's any questions on the transmission stuff, I'm gonna have Dennis cover it, so he'll talk about the 3 structures at Quincy and Rouse.
So is the transmission process gonna be the first, and then distribution second?
Yes.
All right.
And at the end, I got a slide at the end that kind of walks through the schedule, so we can, if you don't, we can get there as well, just, we'll talk about this
Oh,
intersection.
yeah.
So this is the intersection of Rouse and Quincy. So we are putting in, because we're topping off the cyan line, since we're topping off those poles, the transmission pole that's at the corner of the southeast corner of that is not big enough anymore to carry the weight of the conductors. So we are gonna, to the east, about where the yellow arrow is, we will be putting in a new structure there and then running about a 45-degree angle back up to Rouse. So we'll put in 2 steel structures there and then 1 wooden pole to the north of that steel structure on the east side of Rouse, if that makes sense. So that's the other portion of that. The other thing that we're gonna do, to the east of the yellow arrow, we are going to pretty much place for place, replace those, I think there's like 8 or 10 wooden structures for distribution that we're gonna replace through there as well. And that will also be part of this project. But
Are
those,
those-
I'm sorry, go
Are
ahead.
they metal poles or?
Those will be wood. So the
Wood?
wood, there's wood out there today, there'll be wood back, and they're pretty close to the exact same location that they're at today. They'll be probably about 5 feet taller. So, any other questions on that?
A general question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there'll be no disruption of services during,
That's correct, there will not be. Nope, that's a great question, yeah, nope. There will
Well,
not.
then, about, the traffic flow while you're doing this, will it interrupt any,
It will not. So when we built the transmission line from the Franklin substation up north of town over to Frontenac, we did that all along the highway as well. And there was very little, we will have folks out there doing monitoring for the roads, but it will not interrupt. We won't have to shut any roads down, but we will have spotters out there. So it'll be very similar, it'll be very similar to that project as we did before. And just real quick, so again, this project will have some steel structures. Anytime that there's a dead end, which means virtually if you come to a 90-degree angle, that pole at the, we call dead end, will be a steel structure. And that will be the 70 to 100 feet, depending on where it is. If you go through a straight line, when you build a line, anything that's straight will be a wooden pole. But if you have to kind of jog out and come back, those are called tangent poles. That will also be a steel structure. So majority of the steel structures will have two again at Rouse and Quincy. We'll have a few around the Hudson substation there by the highway. And then we'll have, of course, when you cross the highway, we want a steel structure for stability. And then down by the South Pittsburgh substation, there'll be some steel structures. Then everything else will be wood. And then, so as far as schedule goes, again, we're community outreach right now in the spring. We will start construction on the South Pittsburgh switching station with Dirtworks this summer. And then this fall, we will come back and start doing the right-of-way preparation. So before we build a line, we have to make sure the line, that route is clear. So that's what we talk about, restoration, preparation for building. And then in December-ish, January, we will actually start the construction of that transmission line from the Hudson down to the South Pittsburgh substation. And then we'll finish that up probably late spring. And at the end of that, we will put the, we'll install our structures at Quincy and Rouse before we top off the poles, because I need that structure, because I can't cut those poles off until that structure's there just for stability purposes. So we'll do the topping off last in the process. So that's kind of the schedule that we've proposed and have in front of you. Again, do appreciate this opportunity, and any questions, be more than happy to answer.
I do.
Yeah,
Hi.
yes.
What's this gonna cost?
So it's, the estimated budget on this is $14.5 million. And I guess a couple of things. So at Rouse and Quincy, you are proposing new lights there. This will have, we've already talked to the engineering staff here. That will, we have no impact, we'll be fine there in terms of clearances and where our structures are. So that's the other thing that did come out as part of the process.
You said it was on the southeast corner of the intersection on
So-
Quincy and Rouse?
Yes, so, I apologize, I kind of zoomed out here a little bit, but,
There now, no, one on the southwest.
so we're on the southeast corner of that intersection, not the southwest.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll go to the the northeast at a 45-degree angle across Quincy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Then it's not a question, but just a comment, because we still have people in Pittsburgh who think KG&Es are a service provider. So
Absolutely.
where do you get some of these names? Hudson Power. Why don't you name some of these things and brand yourselves something Pittsburgh and Kerry and RJ that,
Well,
in
you know,
order to,
I threw RJ and Kerry's name out there, and it
Yeah.
went so far up the chain, and then I don't know what
well, you know,
happened.
we've got a lot of things named Gorilla, but maybe you need to do something to brand yourselves a little bit, because, you know, KG&E's been gone a long time.
That's a fair statement, absolutely. No, that's why they, in the South Pittsburgh, that's really where that came from, just because it's the south part of
Yeah.
town, but absolutely. Yep, I'll take that back, so, you guys can get in there.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you be more, Vince Van Beest, where I live at 1127 South Rouse, and I own the property there. Where specifically are you gonna put those poles, the two metal poles?
I can get you a set of plans on that. I mean, right now, we're zoomed out so far, I can't really zoom in, but I
So
can
you can't
definitely.
point them out right here to the group,
Well,
where they're gonna be?
about where that arrow is, it's pretty close.
Which arrow is that?
The yellow one. On that south,
Okay,
yeah.
that's one of them, that's on the
Southeast.
south side.
That's
Where are they
correct.
gonna be on the north side?
Approximately right in here is where it's gonna be.
Uh-huh, and then what going on further north?
No, that's correct. This will be a steel, this will be a wood.
Okay, and then what's going on north of that?
Like there are the existing, there are existing structures north of
You've
that.
got that flagged all the way down to here though, what's gonna happen down in here?
Excuse me, are you gonna have any, community meetings like this, or for the neighborhood?
We can certainly do, absolutely, we can do
Because I'm sure
whatever.
if Mr. Van Beesler has
Absolutely.
questions,
Because,
others do.
I mean, and to answer your question, I mean, when we do a survey,
Uh-huh.
we always go way farther with our flags to get surveyed to make sure it all comes back in together.
Okay,
So I'm sure we went a lot farther north and a lot farther south on Rouse, and I'm sure we went a lot farther west,
if
a
you
lot
can
farther
give me
east.
that plan, that'd be great, when you think I'd have that?
I'm sure we can get to you pretty quick.
Carrie's got my number.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect, yeah, and I'll just run everything through her,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But yes, we're more than happy to. Anybody has any questions, be more than happy to walk them through that, whatever we can do to facilitate and inform.
Yeah, I agree with Don that, you know, whatever neighborhood you're going to be in, it'd be good to have town hall meetings, kind of explain to the people that live there what's happening. Any other questions? I would like to say, I know Evergy in the past has requested to be on the agenda several times in the past few years. I think this, being on public input tonight, was very informative, and I think it worked out well. If there's anything that I can assist you with in the future, if you want to come back and do an update or whatever, we appreciate it.
Absolutely, be more than happy to do any of that, absolutely. As we go through, whatever we can do to facilitate, especially when your constituents start asking, we start seeing trucks out there.
Sure.
That's what, I just wanted to make sure, I don't know what's going on, that's not a good answer, so,
Right,
absolutely. So anything we can do to facilitate that, absolutely, be more than happy to.
all right.
You bet. Thank you. All right,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. All right. Before we get to the consent agenda, I would like to congratulate City Manager Darren Hall for being named one of the 50 Kansas You Should Know by Ingram's Magazine. Darren will mark 9 years of service for the city of Pittsburgh this year. We would like to recognize him for his contribution, dedication, and all his efforts as city manager. Congratulations, Darren. This is great for you, and it's great for the city of Pittsburgh. Could you all...
Appreciate that, Mayor.
Would you like to make a comment, or?
It's been a good 9 years. You know, that award is really about our community, and it's fun to get it. Sorry.
He was just a little late on the bells.
Saved by the bell. Thanks.
Good job, Darren. Somebody's at the front door, Darren. Becky. All right. You know, now that you did that, I forgot to silence mine.
Mine is on silent.
All right. Okay, moving to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? I would like to remove item G.
E.
E.
E and F, if you please.
E and F. Are there any other items to be removed from the consent agenda? All right, I'm gonna read them off. Item A, approval of the March 23rd, 2021 City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of resolution number 1243, authorizing the offering for sale of general obligation temporary notes, series 2021-1 of the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the city. Item C, approval of the request submitted by Angie Hadley, Program Coordinator for the Restorative Justice Authority of Crawford County, to reappoint Lyle Teffler to an additional 3-year terms as a member of the Juvenile Correction Advisory Board. Item D, approval of staff recommendation to appoint Susan Cannell and Dan McNally to first 4-year terms as members of the Pittsburgh Public Library Board of Trustees effective May 1st, 2021, and concluding on April 30th, 2025. And item H, approval of appropriation ordinance for the period ending April 13th, 2021, subject to the release of HUD expenditures when funds are received. Is there a motion to approve these consent agenda items?
So move.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Brooks?
yes.
Fields?
Yes.
McNay?
Yes.
Munsell?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
All right. Item E, approval of the application submitted by Deborah M. Portia for water service outside the corporate city limits to property located at 529 East 520th Avenue.
Matt, 2.5 miles, is that, how far outside the city limits is that?
It goes down just past to 190th and then turns back to the north about a half mile.
Okay.
We service clear down in that area.
Will the other neighbors have to tie onto that since it's an application to come and city, part of this in the
They
city?
they fill out an application that, as part of that application, it does have a waiver for, if we were to pursue annexation, but there, it won't force anyone else back on.
Didn't force them to? Okay.
No, and rural water's not out there.
That's what I wondered for-
Years ago, they extended clear out down to 190th out through there
Okay.
from the bypass.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions on item E? Is there a motion?
I would, you want to do the other ones or you want to set them?
Individually, probably. So
Move to,
Yeah, all right. Approval of ordinance number G-1323.
I think we were gonna approve them individually.
Okay, is there a motion to
Yeah.
approve item E?
Second.
Second. It's been moved and approved. All in favor of item E, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Great.
Item F, approval of ordinance number G-1323, amending section 78-116 of the Pittsburgh City Code to prohibit parking on the north side of East Sixth Street between North Short Street and North Stillwell Street, and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance on behalf of the city.
looks like I'm asking you again. We're just approving this one, even though there's 100 parking areas on this thing. We're only approving this one, isn't that right? You got all these
Yes,
lists here.
that's correct. So it's a copy of the whole,
Yes, you copied the whole
ordinance.
thing. And
Specifically, I just brought a map,
Yeah.
just in case of the question tonight. So
Ah.
it's been a request by, so it's to Schlangen Park.
Yes,
So short, it's just this little section of
Yeah.
Sixth Street, and we're getting, with the splash pad going in, the Everybody Plays Playground, we've had a request by Parks to block that off. We're getting enough traffic that it's really pinching it down, so we're gonna block off the north side, so everyone exits the right-hand side of the vehicle into the park itself, has been the request. So as, under approval of the Traffic Advisory Board, we recommended shutting off, or no parking on the north side of the street.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it needs done. My real question is, there's quite a few of the, a lot of areas that's no parking, and they're different areas, because they're scattered around, dramatically. Do we have all the no parking signs up? I know they can't all be up, it's, but,
Through the residential neighborhoods we get in there, there
Yeah.
used to be, we would do them in the first of the block, the mid block, and the end of the block. You start getting a lot of signs. We've actually tried to pull a lot of those off of our arterials just because no one parks there a whole lot. We're trying to paint curbs where we can and get rid of some of
Okay.
that. It'll stay
Okay.
on the books, but just in an effort to try to get rid of some signs and fix some stuff. In the residential neighborhoods where they get passed, we try to leave the signs up as best we can.
okay, thank you.
So no concerns from the neighbors on that street?
There's two houses at the end. They have parking off the alley in the back of the house.
Matt, would you put that map back up a
Yes.
second?
You bet.
Where's the people gonna park for the splash pad?
So you do have the parking lot at the end, so just north of the basketball courts here, and you can technically park
Oh, okay.
in the circle drive, but then you can park along the south side
Along
of
the
Short
south,
Street.
okay.
So there'll be one side parking. Right now, it's not, it's two-way traffic and two-sided parking. And so whenever it really starts getting busy down there, it pinches down, and we're also getting school buses that come down through there, so that's another reason to have the right-hand
And a lot of
release.
times, one parked on the north side, and there'll be one straight across the street parked
Yeah,
on
they
the
don't
south
get the,
side.
they
They're
don't
not-
get the space in the gap,
staggered.
so, yep. Which is good, it's a good problem to have, people are really starting to use the park, so.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions for Matt?
Thank you.
I move to approve.
Second.
Moving second to approve item F. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item G, approval of ordinance number G-1324, providing for the change of a certain area from single-family residence, R-1A, to planned unit development, PUD, and amended and supplementing the zoning district boundary map and zoning ordinance number G-663 as amended of the city of Pittsburgh, and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance on behalf of the city villas at Creekside.
Oh, one, there's a change that's R1A.
R1A,
That was, and that's,
you got RA1, or
Yeah.
1A, 1A.
that's.
So
changed.
that's, I didn't have any questions, but
Oh,
that was a
okay.
typing error and.
Yeah, it was a typing
Oh,
error,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah,
Had it-
so, I'd move to approve
Second.
item G. Then moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Quentin.
Yep.
Are you up here for the next? Take it. Consider the following. Request to change zoning. Consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals. Approve the request submitted by E&J Investments of Pittsburgh, Kansas, to change the zoning on the property located on the north side of the 1900 block of East Centennial from R1A, single-family residence, to CP2, Planned General Commercial, and RP3, Planned Medium Density, to allow for residential and commercial development.
Yeah, so if we look at this, and we'll get to this plat on the next agenda item, but just for visual here. This is a multi-phase development here, and Eric Bradshaw is in attendance here. So the reason for the commercial and the residential is based on this plat here. It looks like phase one is going to be generally commercial. Phase two will be commercial as well. And then as we get back into this north portion of the plat, that will be a residential area. And the reason for changing from R1A to RP3 is the plan for the type of housing that they're expecting to build back there.
This opens up onto Silverback,
No,
no? What's the,
Centennial.
Centennial?
Yeah.
Centennial, I mean, yeah.
Two entrances.
Yes, yeah. There's one on the west here and then one on the east. And if we're familiar with Renew Medical and Spa here, that's down here in the bottom left corner if you're looking at the screen.
Any other questions for Quentin? Is a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Quentin. Item B, preliminary plat, E&J Investments. Consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals to approve the preliminary plat submitted by E&J Investments of Pittsburgh, Kansas for the platting of the property located on the north side of the 1900 block of East Centennial.
Yeah, so as stated earlier, this is a multi-phase development. It's currently broken into three phases, as stated, phase one and phase two. Actually, I can get down here a little, here we go. So phase one contains 9 C2 lots, and phase two contains 6 C2 lots, and phase three is 28 R3 lots for residential. No issues from planning and zoning. It passed 5-0.
All right. Any questions for Quentin? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C, preliminary plat 3P Development Group LLC. Consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals to approve the preliminary plat submitted by 3P Development Group LLC of Bryant, Arkansas for the platting of the property located between the 16 and 1700 blocks of the south side of East 4th Street.
Yeah, so, this is a PUD for Villas at Creekside, a 55 and up, community. There will be 29 villas, in this plat. As it sits now, this is phase one. Again, this is a plan for a multi-phase development. The two, main roads here, that go back to the south, there will be, I know it was a question before, will there be access? There will be gravel access to connect for emergency personnel. This main alleyway in the middle here has a large enough radius for emergency vehicles to be able to turn around and get in and out of. Parking is in the rear, on all of these lots here in the middle, and then this over here to the west side.
So is there two access to this development?
At this point, no, it's just the single access to the north, or from the north.
And it's gated?
It will be gated, yeah.
And when phase two and phase three, whenever, will there be access to those phases from this phase, or?
Yeah, this will just carry straight south. So if you see this here, this will carry straight south into the continuing phases, and at that point, they will meet up with this arterial road here to the east. That will be brought down to the development.
So this, and those phases will have two entrances?
When phase two comes online, it will have to have a second entrance.
And this one will have, phase one will have a second entrance when phase two comes on?
Yeah, they're all connected.
Will it be gated, both entrances to phase one?
It appears that this development will be gated in its entirety.
That's why I asked, because some of our recent developments, we wanted them to connect to existing developments. And this phase one won't allow that to happen if it's gated, right?
Yeah, this is a PUD, so
It's
it is different. It is its own zoning inside that boundary.
So then my next question, the roads in that, they're not public access roads, they'll be private, built and maintained?
Yeah, that's, they will be public streets once they are turned over to,
But if it's gated, how can the public access their streets? I mean, other than the people that live there, nobody else that lives there will be allowed free access if they
Sure.
wanted to drive through this development.
sure. Will be public infrastructure, how that is managed through the gating system, that would be up to the developer.
Well, that's why I asked, because if it's gated, I don't see that as being public. I think it's private streets in that development.
I agree with that truthfully. I think that if we're gonna be paying for it, I can't see that it should be closed off to the rest of the public.
But that's part of the sale,
Right.
is gated, and that,
Well, then, that's fine if it wants to be closed, but as long as the streets that's built and maintained, I don't think that should be on the rest of us to maintain the streets if they're, to me, it's private. And I know there's a lot of developments around the country that's private, that maintain their own streets and roads.
And what about emergency access?
Huh?
And what about emergency access?
Well, emergency could get in there, but that's still not That's for emergency, but if you wanted to ride through that development, you can't.
Well, if the gate's closed, the fire department have a key?
Well, they'll.
Yeah, but are you gonna give a key to everybody in
That's what I'm
Pittsburgh
asking.
that wants
Are
to
you?
drive through there?
Well, this isn't new. I
No,
mean,
it's not.
certainly, there's other communities that we can ask, you know, how it works. You know, this isn't.
Yeah, this is the first PUD in Pittsburgh.
Right. I mean, but it's not
Yeah, there's
new.
no other gated communities in
Right.
Pittsburgh.
Sure.
So I would like to, yeah, we may look at that, the streets, to me, inside that gated development, our private streets should be maintained by that developer.
Sure, yeah, I can certainly take that back to them.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? All right, there's a motion to approve.
So move.
I second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor of approving this plat, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Quentin.
Yeah.
Item D. Deposits of bid, Georgia Street Channels and Culvert Project. Consider staff recommendation to award the bid for Georgia Street Channels and Culvert Project to the low bidder, Heck and Wicker, Inc. of Parsons, Kansas, based on their total combined bid of $444,488.92. Bid A, Georgia Street Channels Project in amount of $232,023.94, and bid B, Georgia Street Culvert Project in amount of $212,044.98.
Good evening, mayors and commissioners. So this is a project that's been a couple years in the making. Last year, we did the East 14th Street Bridge, and so now we're ready to turn around and do another big project out of our operating budget, wise. So, just to remind everybody, we're gonna recommend award for a total combined bid of the $444,000. We did get 3 bids. We were underneath the engineer's estimate, so, we feel pretty good about the numbers. The contractor, Heck and Wicker, most recently completed the North Walnut extension between 28th and 29th up through there. So, I mean, they have done work. They've done the sidewalk project up on South Rouse and a few other things throughout the years. So we feel confident in the contractor. So the first one is along Georgia Street from the south side of Martin, about halfway down to Jefferson. There's some old WPA ditches that are rock lined and the asphalt's falling off, and so we're gonna go back on that street and we're gonna put a deeper curb and gutter through that and rebuild that street bed through there, and then adjust the storm pipe that crosses underneath the road and carries off to the west through there. So that's project A.
Before you move on,
Yes.
these wells or gutters or trenches that are along Georgia, those are going to be filled in?
Yes, so the original design was whether or not you could put storm piping through there,
That's
and
all.
because of the clearances and the way that it was set up, it didn't allow itself, and there's a lot of surface water that carries through there. So basically, we're going to take those, where they are as channel ditches, and we're gonna redesign basically for a deeper curb and gutter system that goes out to the backside of those ditches, and it will carry that water, kinda like the rock line ditches did, and adjust the grades through there is the goal, because of the surface water coming through and being able to capture that.
So that's curb and gutter you're replacing,
Uh-huh,
and
Yeah.
will that make the road wider?
yes,
So it's
yes.
kind of narrow.
It will appear, it does get kinda narrow through there, so it will appear wider, and then we'll have a little deeper transition through the curb and gutter section to carry the water loads that come through there.
This has sure been a long time in coming. and
Yes, it has.
Great addition.
So, since I got here, so.
Yeah,
What's your timeline?
So we're projecting a start date of June 1st and a completion of October 1. We will close the section of Georgia down for it. We will allow there's a couple houses that have to have access through there, so we'll have to maintain access to those residents, but it will be closed as a through street, and we've been working to coordinate that through the fire department as well.
Will that road still be asphalt, or what?
No, we're gonna go back to concrete.
Concrete?
Yep.
Good deal.
And we're gonna modify the sidewalk too.
Right.
Through there. There's a sidewalk on the east side. So the second project is down behind the J.C. Ball Field between Lincoln Park. If you drove through there, there's actually a pretty good dip. So there's there's currently a CMP, a corrugated metal pipe running through there that's starting to take some rust and really starting to erode through there, along with the erosion happening on the sidewall. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna replace that with a nice channelized pipe, clean that up, rebuild the embankments, and we'll actually make a pedestrian sidewalk on the east side so you can cross through the park on that part, and that will go back in concrete as well. And that will also be fully closed during construction.
When was the construction started?
It'll be June 1 to October 1.
So during the 4th of July, that's a busy.
It is
area.
gonna, the timing's kind of a rough go, but yeah, we're gonna have to just kind of work through that to
Right.
make it happen.
If there's no other questions, I move approval.
Second it.
Been moved and approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any non-agenda reports or requests?
I have one item. I've been contacted by a number of people regarding the goat farm on
Rouse.
Rouse.
Yeah, I have two.
I don't know how we can address it, but it seems to me like we need to do something about it. And if whatever happens with this current goat farm, we need to make some kind of a resolution so we don't have that coming up just like down the street at the Rouse and Quincy intersection. You've got two big vacant places that could become goat farms. And I think we need to do something about that so we don't have that. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Is it,
Dying to talk about it.
I'll bet.
but I think there's a donkey back there.
Do you have another question?
Well, there was a cow there too. I saw a cow today.
I didn't know if it was a official goat
So-
farm or it's somebody who just has goats.
The difference is,
I don't know. Well, fair, maybe.
So, yeah, we've been approached by the neighbors to the south, and obviously, you can see it as you drive by on Rouse. We've been in contact with the individual who owns it. It's a unique situation because most of our ordinances are written in the city for occupancy and residence requirements. So if you're a resident, you can only have 2 of this and 1 of that, and if you have to have acreage. We don't have anything written with regards to 15 acres in the middle of town that doesn't have a residence on it, which is why you continue to see the acquisition, apparently, it looks to me like there's at least a donkey, some goats, and maybe now a cow been added. We have been in touch with the gentleman that owns it, who lives in town and owns a business. But the simplest thing in the short term would be some fencing. However, that fencing's not something I think the city taxpayers are gonna wanna put up fencing, so it's gonna be up to the individual to do that. But, yeah, I mean, we could, so obviously it comes back to ordinance, what kind of things do we want to include? The problem is there are areas in Pittsburgh, because we're in Crawford County and we're in a rural setting, that if you own land, you can have livestock, especially if you don't have a house tied to it. So we're kind of in a pickle on this one, where we're hoping that the individual that owns it would work with us and try to put up some proper fencing, so you couldn't see it from Rouse. That doesn't help the neighbors to the south. But at this point, as you can tell, there is no fence going up, and I think it's gonna be very difficult for us to write anything going forward that wouldn't allow him to be grandfathered in. But going forward, there's a lot of land in Pittsburgh that's not tied to a house that there's horses on. If you just travel farther down Rouse on the west side, there's horses. You get over by 23rd Street, there's horses. I mean, the question is, we've researched the heck out of it. What do we want? Patrick obviously has approached me, Commissioner O'Brien, and said, we need something to limit goats. Well, we have a limit on goats to a residence, but when we start limiting pasture land in Crawford County that's zoned agricultural, it's a slippery slope.
So
but this is pasture land in the city of Pittsburgh.
Well, I understand.
And that's my issue. I think that if we don't write something, we're going to try to close the barn door after the goats get out. You know, we need to, I just can't believe that you can't write some kind of an ordinance that,
Well,
that won't take care of this matter.
Well, I met with the owner of the property, along with John Missouri. Well, that was the neighbors.
yeah.
Met with John Missouri, the neighbors that were complaining about the goats. The neighbors offered to help the owner, maybe do some clearing. I don't know if they spoke to the owner of it, but that was the offer they made. You know, you talk about fencing, privacy fence would keep us from seeing the goats. But, you know, it's a two-way street. If you're the neighbors and you don't want to look at the goats, then you can put up your own privacy fence not to see the goats. I met at a separate time with the owner and Dexter Neisler, and we talked about the situation of the complaints. And the owner, haven't talked to him since then, he's receptive to whatever he could do. But his main goal is, which I thought was a wonderful idea, he wanted to have he goes out there with his daughter, and they walk the area and play with the goats. I don't know if there's donkeys, whatever else out there. But his long-term goal is to have some kind, and this is just what he said, have some kind of a barn and kind of like a petting zoo. And I thought that, and educational for our students in Pittsburgh. And I thought that was a wonderful idea if that comes to pass, that the guy that does this, that you do have an opportunity. So how many kids, you know, or have that opportunity to go out and see goats, donkeys, or whatever? But I think he has a plan, and, you know, like I said, what I heard, what Darren's saying, you know, you could come up with an ordinance, but this is already existing. He'd be grandfathered in, the way I understand, if you do write an ordinance against goats. So, you know, I don't know what's going to be done and what the plans are, but basically, I listened to both sides, and they both had good arguments, but we just have to see. You know, I like the guy's plan that he'd like to make a petting zoo for the area schools, come out on field trips and look at farm animals. I think it's a great idea.
What is that patch of land zoned currently?
Well, I think it used to be
Agriculture?
agriculture, but once it comes into the city, I think Dexter could tell you everything defaults to residential, but
To the point of developing this into a petting zoo, I think that makes it even more imperative that we deal with it now before it becomes a bigger obstacle. I mean, you've got a development to the south of it with wonderful homes. I sure as hell wouldn't want a petting zoo across my street that who knows what it's going to become. Maybe we can't write an ordinance to keep him from having goats, but I can't believe that we can't write an ordinance that will
Give us some
keep
control.
other people
Yeah.
from developing this issue. So we have to have the same, go through the same crap again.
Well, during the meeting, I understand what you're saying, Patrick, we don't want to have a lot of petting zoos all over town. I think this guy's got a good plan. But during the meetings, you know, it's an eyesore to some people, but some people it's not. But they pointed out that there's just as big as eyesore to me, right across Rouse, at Mission Clay, with who knows how many acres and acres of clay pipes just set in there. So, you know, I'd rather see kids go to a petting zoo, if that comes to pass, than looking at Mission Clay pipe that's been sitting there for years and might sit there for years to come. So they both, both is an eyesore, I
So
guess.
because we have one eyesore or two eyesores, we're not going to try to alleviate this issue by not creating more eyesores?
No,
I don't think that's the way it ought to go.
I agree with you, maybe we could write an ordinance on other farm animals, but this guy,
I think if you do it on, you can't do it on farm animals because we do have a number of residents that have horses. But if you can be specific to goats, I just think that we're not protecting the neighborhoods. And that's what Pittsburgh is. It's a city. It's not a damn farm.
so what's the difference between somebody's horse and somebody's goat? That's my question.
Well, so far we haven't got any complaints about the horses. That's mine.
Well, like I said, I listened to both sides. Sounds like the guy's got a plan. He's gonna clean it up. They're gonna help him. If, I don't know, that's what I heard him talk about. If it becomes a petting zoo, I'm all for that,
Why don't I just,
Do some research.
why don't I just call the gentleman, and, we were letting, the neighbors were dealing with him, the building official has dealt with him, so it's not gonna get anywhere if we all sit in here and compare apples to oranges.
Sure.
Okay, but
I'll see.
what happens to him is one thing. What happens to the next piece of land, that's another thing.
Yep.
I agree with you on
And
that.
we
Patrick.
need, that's what we need to be taking charge of right now. Am I?
No, I agree.
agree
That's
with that.
something to research and
Yeah.
see what,
Well, we've researched it.
Well, let's write it.
What do you want it to say? What's the magic
No
number of
goats in
and animals?
Pittsburgh?
I don't think you can do
I
that.
was gonna
I
say,
don't
you're
know why you
singling
gotta-
him out.
I
You
lived in
can't do
Overland
that.
Park for a number of years, and I was only about a half a mile from the petting zoo, right in the
Right.
center of Overland
It's
Park.
great.
But it's very, very nice. It's high-end, Darren's probably familiar with it.
But
They
does
had a
the
lot of
city-
goats and but just a few. You're not allowed to have a herd.
but who owns that petting zoo? The city?
They do now, but it was operated privately when I was there.
Yeah, it was a farm.
And it was a very nice facility, and they spent money on it.
Some are very nice and some
And that's
are
what
just-
this needs. It needs to be cleaned up and be done properly. That's what needs to be
And
done.
that's his goal.
Yeah. It takes money.
Let me
Right.
try to get us out of this. So I'll go back and do some specific research on Overland Park, since they obviously have a petting zoo, and they probably have something related to goats and other animals. And I promise you, I will not be here in 2 weeks, but, and I don't want to not be here when you have this discussion, so in a month.
There's no hurry.
We already have an ordinance against more than 2 goats in next to a house. Is that? am I
Correct.
That's, yeah, right.
But the ordinance is if you lived on that property.
Right.
You have
You
to
can't.
have, you have to have a
Yeah.
residence on the
Right.
Yeah,
It's
but he
written for
doesn't have a
residents.
residence, so
This
there's
is
no
just
ordinance
15
against two
acres
goats.
in town.
But I think what
John
Patrick
Mazurk
is,
pointed that out.
well, we'll just look forward to that.
Well, we will.
We'll have a room full of goat advocates.
No, I appreciate your patience. I've talked to at least 3 of the commissioners repeatedly and so many neighbors, so we'll get, yes, in word, yes.
That's my only non-agenda item.
All right. Any other?
I have something on
Okay.
a lighter note.
Oh, good.
I would like to congratulate Pittsburgh's own Mrs. Kansas, Robin Brock, for placing in the top 6 of the Mrs. America pageant on March 27th in Las Vegas. It's a great honor for her.
Yeah.
And she's from Pittsburgh.
Well, that's great.
All right, good.
Yeah. So we have 2 celebrities that live in
Well.
Pittsburgh, Darren and Robert.
Yeah, how about
I
that?
think she had a lot tougher competition.
You're not gonna enter a beauty contest next, Darren?
It's a
my
scholarship program.
My daughter's still in the line. She could probably pull something off, but it's over for me.
All right, is there any other reports and requests? All right, seeing none, next section, executive session. An executive session is necessary for the preliminary discussion of acquisition of real property pursuant to KSA 75-4319B6 to discuss the potential acquisition of real estate. Motion to recess into executive session for 15 minutes for the preliminary discussion of acquisition of real property pursuant to KSA 75-4319B6 to discuss the potential acquisition of real estate with a meeting to resume in the commission room in 15 minutes. Is there a motion to recess in executive session?
So move.
Is it second? Second. All in favor of recessing? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are recessed for 15 minutes in executive session.
Gotcha.
Matt's the only one stuck around with that.
Oh, it's still yapping.
All right, we're back from executive session. No decisions were made, no votes were cast. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Moving in second. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Okay?
Been walking lately?